Continuing with the vector zoo version of our project, we are now going to write the methods for feeding an animal and writing a zoo report. So the feed animal is we're going to choose an animal to feed, and it's just going to run a little menu to allow us to enter how much food that animal should get. And a zoo report will kind of be a summary report that we print at the end of the day. Please notice in our prototype line here that we are passing a reference to a zoo, which is actually passing a reference to this animal vector. And I did not mention it in the last video, but remember, all of our animals, even though they're declared as a mammal and a reptile, those are animals because we put them in the animal vector. And so that's why we're able to access our superclass animal methods. When we got get name before, that was a superclass method. And then our subclasses just have their little bit of additional information in them. So I am not changing any of this structure. I'm not changing animal.h, mammal.h, or reptile.h. I'm again only changing the driver at this point. And so I've gone ahead and written these methods and added in the lines of code that we need, but let me step you through this. I also had a compiler error came up, and it told me that it wanted to use an unsigned integer for the for loop. And so if you do get that error, you just use unsigned int. And I'm not sure if it was because I had to use unsigned int or it was throwing some other vector error, but I did want to show that to you because you probably will run across that. And so just use it an unsigned int, which just means that it can't be negative. So it's not going to be, can't use a negative value there. And that often occurs when you're using a collection. And remember, a vector is a type of collection. An array is a type of collection also. And so on this one, we've already went to the menu, and now we're going to add which animal would you like to feed, and we're going to enter the choice. That's going to be an integer variable. I declared it up above as an integer variable. And then we're going to send to feed animal the entire vector by just sending the name of it. So when you pass a vector, just like when you pass an array, you send the name or you just use the name. And then I'm going to send it which animal I want to work with. And what I'm doing is I'm sending an index to this vector. That's basically an array index value, but I'm going to use it, it's a vector index value, but I'm using it just like an array index value. The only real difference between vectors and arrays is that arrays, you have to know the size of the array before you start. Vectors, you don't. Vectors grow and shrink as you work with them. So they are what we call dynamic data structures. And so it's very nice because I could add animals and I could delete animals and I won't have to worry about the size, because then I just use this .size method for vectors, and no matter how much the zoo grows or how much the zoo shrinks, I can just use the .size variable there and it'll take care of it for me. And then the zoo report is only going to need the information from the zoo, so I just send it my vector of zoo animals. And then we're going to see if the total food consumed actually works. I don't know if that works yet. We'll have to try it out. So our methods then, I'm going to scroll down so we can take a look at our methods. The zoo report consumes a zoo. Please notice it's passed by reference. And I'm just using a zoo. I could use any variable name there that I wanted to. I could use, X or Y or whatever, but it's very typical to do like a zoo as a variable because it's a particular zoo that we're talking about. And this is going to be an animals report. And we're going to, so if you take a look, the animal report is pretty straightforward. It's just going to go through and it's going to get the info for each animal. Remember, a get info report, if we go back to our methods, get info is in the animal class, get info is in the mammal class, get info is in the reptile class, and for each one of those subclasses, there's a little bit different information that's outputted. The superclass animal just prints the weight, mammal adds that it's a mammal, and reptile adds that it's a reptile, and it adds the temperature. So what will happen as I process that zoo is that it will call the appropriate get info method for the zoo report. And then our feed method, pretty similar. It brings in a zoo as a pass by reference, and the choice, the animal that we want to work with. So then I'm allowed to use a case statement. So I've got a switch case statement. And so for case 1, 2, or default would be invalid, I'm going to feed the animals. And right now I only have 2 types of animals. I got a mammal and I've got a reptile. So if we run this code, it's going to say, which animal would you like to feed? I'm going to feed my tiger, which is Zim. I'm going to feed him 10 pounds of food. And then I have a report. So Zim now weighs 210 pounds and the other animals didn't change. You can't see that because I didn't print the report out before I fed them, but you could verify it in code. And then the total food consumed is 10. So our total food consumed is working. And that gives you an example of how to pass a vector to a method, how to use a switch case statement in case you hadn't seen that before, how to use a menu in our in the driver, and also how to use the size operator when you're working with a vector to get it to process through the vector. If I were to create one more animal here, so if I recreate another reptile, and this time we'll call it a turtle. I think a turtle's a reptile, and we'll call our turtle Ninja, just for the Ninja Turtles. And turtles, I'm forgetting what my variables represent here. So I'm just going to say 5. That's the weight. So this turtle weighs 5 pounds. And the temperature of this turtle, I have no idea what turtles are supposed to be temperature-wise, but we will say 65.8. If I add one more animal to my zoo like this, I'm going to have to push back. So my zoo dot push back. I'm going to add my turtle. And if I run the code, and the turtle started off as 5 pounds. Let's feed the turtle. If you notice, it went ahead and added the turtle called Ninja. I'm going to feed Ninja. And which animal would you like to feed? It's telling me invalid data, cannot process. So somewhere I broke my code. That's not a good thing. Okay, I had said that I had broke my code. And what happened was I had choice 4 entered because I had 4 animals. And my switch case statement only took advantage of case 1 and case 2. And this is actually to create a situation when you have maybe just mammals and reptiles. And that's so for actually a later example. So I just went ahead and pulled out the code for how much food is needed, enter the amount, and then we're going to go ahead and feed the animal. And that should fix the situation for now. So if I feed the Ninja, and I feed him a pound of food, then Ninja ate a pound of food, and he weighs 6 now. And that's going to be the end of this video. We will look at the next video to show how to handle some more of what we call polymorphism.